Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Intuitive Angling, and where you never know what you're going to get here. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I've never seen a video on, and that's talking about what can you learn by the fish scales that you sometimes get on your treble hooks or hooks, and what can that tell you about the fish, what they're doing, basically what type of information can you gain from this. So we're going to have a little discussion on that. Real quick, I just want to invite everybody, if you guys haven't had a chance, that's what I'm doing here in the office today, working on Fish in the Moment lake map breakdowns. If you guys haven't had a chance, go by fishinthemoment.com, check them out. We got winter lake map breakdowns we're working on now. Matt Steffen, myself, Johnny Schultz. We got lake map breakdowns of all 4 seasons, all over the country. Personal map breakdowns. It's a really good resource. You can check those out on fishinthemoment.com. Okay, let's talk a little bit about fish scales on baits. This is something that primarily happens on treble hooks, although I have gotten some on single hooks, but it's primarily a treble hook deal. One of the things that I always try to determine, first of all, is if the scale is that of a bass. If you guys get a scale that's like as big as, your thumbnail or something like that, or even a pinky nail, that's not a bass. That's usually something like a buffalo or a carp, some type of a rough fish that you've accidentally ran across its back or something like that while you're fishing. So don't get all excited if you get a big scale on your bait. You think, man, I just had a huge bass hit my bait. Most of the bass scales that you're going to get are going to be the scales that can be off any part of the body, but a lot of it is around the cheek and the head. So the scale, as far as the scale size, is indicative and relative to the size of the fish. But to give you basically a reference point on that, if you look at the thumbnail I included on this video, you can see the hook, the scales on the end of that treble hook. That was off a 3-pound bass I caught yesterday at Stockton Lake on a jerkbait. So that sort of gives you an indicator with that. If you got 8 or 10 pound bass, obviously those scales are going to be bigger. If you got something smaller than 3 pounds, they're going to be smaller. But basically go back to the thumbnail, magnify in on it, and that gives you an idea of the size of a 3-pound bass scale for the most part. Now, what does this tell you as far as what can you do with it when you get scales on your bait? To me, when I get scales on my bait and I don't catch the fish, say you're throwing your bait out there and you're like, man, that felt like a fish, and you get them back in and you got a scale on your bait, or maybe you were fighting the fish a little bit and the fish came off and you had a scale on your hook. The first thing that it tells me is I need to make some type of a change in either my color selection that I'm using or my retrieve speed. So I'll vary with that. If I'm getting some scales on my bait and I'm getting some fish slapping or hitting the bait, and say I'm using a shad pattern crankbait, I may switch it up and go to some like a perch pattern, crawdad pattern, something like that. Try to vary up the color pattern to see if they're a little bit more aggressive as far as it's a color issue. If I don't feel it's a color issue and I feel like, given the water visibility I'm fishing, that I'm using the right color, the next thing I like to do is change up my retrieve and my speed on my crankbaits. Most of the time, guys, if you're getting a bass that is slapping at your bait, you need to speed your bait up a little bit, because the fish, you need to trigger more or capitalize more on that fish's reflex reaction strike triggers. And that usually comes with either an increase in the speed of retrieve or a variation like a stop and go retrieve. So those pretty much is pretty simple. Those are pretty much the 2 things I look for. If you're getting short strikers, getting scales on your bait, that type of stuff, change up your color, change up your speed retrieve, do a lot of stop and go, something to try to trigger that fish to eat the bait a little bit better like that. So anyway, just a quick video on that, a little quick tip. Not sure if it'll help you out any, but I think at least it goes into your encyclopedia of bass information. That's what I found out to be true anyway. So hope you guys are doing good, and please hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and we'll see y'all later.